Good morning, Dr. Williams, and everyone else who will be watching this video as it will be posted to YouTube. But my name is Evan Rogers, and today we're going to go over 5 different exercise techniques. In order, they're going to be the deadlift, the squat, the barbell hip thrust, barbell bench press, and then the military press. To preference this, with each exercise we do, we're going to go over the primary muscles that are involved, the primary joint actions. We're going to go over a proper warm-up, 1 to 2 kind of mobility, light exercises to get prepped for it. We'll then do the exercise and go over technique, some common errors that occur during the exercise, and then 1 to 2 cues that can kind of help fix those errors for a proper exercise. Alright, on to it. Periodically throughout the video you will hear voiceovers, but before we get to each of the exercises, I always recommend a generalized warm-up, such as biking shown here. You could do some light jogging, some jump roping. This is just a generalized warm-up to increase the heart rate and increase blood flow to the working muscles. Alright, on to the first exercise. Alright, first exercise up is going to be the deadlift. Primary muscles involved is primarily a posterior chain exercise, so we're going to have glutes and hamstrings, low back, lats, as well as the abdominals, obliques, and the quads. Primary joint actions, we're going to see plantar flexion of the talocrural joint, extension of the tibiofemoral joint, as well as extension of the femoral acetabular joint. Alright, a quick warm-up. We're going to have 2 kind of mobility exercises here. First one's going to be the world's greatest stretch. This one is going to help to stretch out and open the hips up some, as well as gets the thoracic spine moving. And that is different than thoracic spine mobility. Just want to get the blood flow going. And then the second exercise is going to be a bird dog. This one's going to help get the core working, get some core stabilization, as well as the glutes and the arms going. Alright, on to the exercise technique. Proper foot placement for the deadlift is vital. We want our feet underneath our hips. We're going to have the bar resting against our shins, and then we want our hands just outside of shins so the knees can pass right through our arms. As we step up to the barbell to perform our deadlift, as we reach down, we're going to push our hips back and then bend our knees oh so slightly. And then as we raise, the bar grazes the shin as we lift up, and then we push the hips forward. Hips go back, bar goes down with the hips. It's important to note we want to keep a relatively straight or flat back, and it helps to look forward and maintain proper posture. One more time as we lift up. Now we go up, and then the hips go forward. Remember, hinging at the hips. Alright, now that we've gone over proper exercise technique of the conventional deadlift, one of the most common errors we see is excessive back rounding as we're performing the lift. That can put a lot of strain on the lower back and cause low back pain. However, there are 2 cues we can use to kind of fix that. As we're performing the lift, we want to make sure, before we lift, we really want to brace our core in. So take a deep breath in, and then perform the lift. As we lower it, that's when we'll exhale. Another one is rigidity. Making sure everything is nice and tight right before the lift, and then as we lift, back down, that's when we can relax. That is our deadlift. And now, on to our squat. Alright, our second exercise is the barbell squat. So the primary muscles that we're going to use are going to be predominantly the lower body muscles, the quadriceps, glutes, hamstrings, as well as the abdominals. When it comes to muscle actions, as we descend on the squat, we're going to have flexion of the talocrural joint, tibiofemoral joint, and the femoral acetabular joint. And then on the way up, we're going to have extension of those joints. For a warm-up, we're going to have two different exercises. The first one is going to be a weighted plate hold in a deep squat, just working on hip mobility, rocking from side to side a little bit, just to teach ourselves a good squat bottom. The second one is going to be ankle flexion, because ankle flexion is very important when it comes to a squat. Being able to get nice and deep, we need good ankle mobility. All right, on to the exercise technique. As we approach the barbell for our squat, we want the bar to rest underneath our shoulders. That way we are able to safely unrack the weight, step back, and perform the exercise. As well as when it's time to put the weight back, we do not have a large distance to travel. As we perform our squat, we want to brace the core with a nice deep breath, weight evenly distributed over our heel and toes. As we travel down in our squat, we want those knees to travel forward and out with our hips moving in a straight line. Similar, we would like the bar to travel up and down in a straight path. Okay, now that we've gone over proper exercise technique, let's look at two of the common errors that occur during the squat. Number one is going to be excessive chest leaning. Usually that comes from poor hip or ankle mobility. And then the second common error is going to be knee valgus, those knees caving in. All right, and then with two cues to help fix most of those is when we're doing our squat, if we tell ourselves chest up and we look forward, it'll help kind of keep that squat in good form, as well as we tell ourselves keep those knees wide and keeping them out, it'll help to prevent them from caving in on themselves. All right, let's move on to our third exercise, the barbell hip thrust. All right, for our third exercise today, we have the barbell hip thrust. Starting off, the muscles, primarily a posterior chain exercise, so it's going to be the glutes and the hamstrings. Primary muscle joint action is going to be hip extension, the femoral acetabular joint. Warm up, a good one, we need to get those glutes firing a little bit, so we're going to do some banded monster walks, just a few reps down, a few reps back, just to get the glutes going, get us prepared for a primarily glute exercise. All right, let's get on to the exercise technique here. As we set up for the hip thrust, using the bench, we're going to place it just below our shoulder blades where it is most comfortable. As we perform the barbell hip thrust with proper placement on the bench, just underneath shoulder blades, we're going to replace our knees with our feet. That brings us up to a good position. We're going to tuck those hips in and then lower them slowly, driving up to a level top position. Helps to look down as we travel down, and then looking up as we travel up. Now that we've gone over proper hip thrust technique, let's go over two common errors, and then let's go over two cues on how to fix those. So the first error is going to be hyperextension of the low back. That's when we perform the exercise, and at the very top, we keep pushing even more and more. The second one is when we get to that top position again. Some people go to their tippy toes, and that's not what we want. That takes focus off of the glutes. Now, two cues to fix those. All right, when we get hyperextension, we want to tell ourselves a level body. We don't want to go any higher than a flat body. And then with the tippy toes, we want to tell ourselves 3 points of contact, the heel, the big toe, and the little toe at all times during this movement. All right, exercise number 4 is our bench press. Primary muscles involved are going to be the pec major, the anterior delt, and then all 3 heads of the tricep. Primary joint actions of the eccentric, or the lowering point, is going to be horizontal shoulder abduction, followed by elbow flexion. And then on the concentric, as we push it up, the horizontal shoulder adduction with elbow extension. Some good warm-ups for the bench press. Number 1, most people don't think of, is going to be lat activation, such as the single arm row or bent over rows. getting those lats activated really help with a strong bench press. And then another one is going to be on the bench with a PVC pipe, pretending to bend it, which helps us with our cues later on. All right, on to the exercise technique. As we perform our bench press, we're going to grab the bar just outside of shoulder width. We're going to relax our shoulders, flat back on the bench, or a slight arch is okay, and weight on the heels on the ground. As the bar lowers, it's going to touch just below the breastbone, and then we're going to push up and back towards the rack. Nice and slow down, and then strong up. Making sure those elbows don't flare out, but are tucked in. And then down, up. All right, now that we've gone over the proper exercise technique for a bench press, let's go over 2 common errors followed by 2 cues. Number 1 is going to be the elbows flaring. When those elbows flare out really wide on a bench press, it can lead to shoulder and or elbow pain. Another one is up and down. A lot of time beginner lifters, we see a very up and down bar path, and that's not exactly what we want. With the 2 cues, so at the warm up, we went over the PVC pipe bending, and this helps us bend the bar. This way it helps protect our elbows, keeping them kind of tucked in and protecting the shoulder and the elbow. And then the final cue is a J-curve bar path. So we want that bar not up and down, but kind of up and back, forming a J shape. That is our bench press. On to our 5th and final exercise, the barbell military press. Primary muscles in this movement are going to be our anterior delts, followed by all 3 heads of the tricep. Primary joint action is going to be shoulder flexion, followed by elbow extension. A good warm-up for any overhead pressing is going to be a PVC pipe pass-through, as well as some figure 8s with the PVC. All right, on to the exercise technique. As we perform the military press, we want the barbell to be in line with our shoulders. We want a nice strong core, not excessive rounding of the back. We want to make sure as we press the weight up, we're going to push our head forward and then back down. It's very important that the barbell travels straight up and down. Looking at the exercise from the back, we want to make sure we keep those elbows slightly tucked in, not too flared out. And once again, we want a full lockout of the exercise at the top. Now that we've gone over proper technique, we're going to go over 2 common errors. This one is where the barbell gets out of a straight up and down alignment and goes more forward, putting more pressure on the shoulders than needed, as well as half reps, not getting a full lockout and not properly activating the triceps. 2 cues to fix those for the half reps is making sure we get those arms straight locked out up top, followed by a head forward, putting that head forward as the barbell goes up. That was our military press. All right, we're at the end of the video here. We have finished all 5 techniques. I just want to say thank you, Dr. Williams, for everything you've done so far. I hope you enjoyed the video. Everyone else watching, I hope you enjoyed it and learned something as well. And that's it. That'll conclude this video. So until next time.